Hey there, it's another beautiful day. Let's watch some stuff.
Some people do stupid things. Don't do stupid things. You are about to hear my opinion. Do your own research.
All right, you need to compare two pieces of footage here. The first one is real footage of Christopher Pelkey, who was killed in a road rage shooting in Arizona 3 years ago. Take a look.
All right, I'm Chris Pelkey. I served with the United States Army in the infantry. I'm from upstate New York.
Okay, now compare that to this AI version that was shown to the judge in court at the actual sentencing.
So, I would like to make my own impact statement. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. It means a lot. I wish I could be with you all today. To Gabriel Horcasitas, the man who shot me. It is a shame we encountered each other that day in those circumstances. In another life, we probably could have been friends.
So Christopher's sister, Stacy Wales, worked with her husband using old photos and clips of her brother to create a lifelike AI-generated video. And in that video that you saw, the AI version of Pelkey thanked his family and even spoke directly to the man who shot him, saying he believed in forgiveness. When the video was shown in court, it shocked everyone, apparently, and even the judge said, quote, "I loved that AI," end quote. It seems like this has sparked a bit of a debate, and the question here is, should we use AI to let the dead speak in court? Could it be misleading? Would it have the same impact on a jury as it did on a judge here? Is this a step in a positive direction, or could this be very dangerous? I want to hear what you think about this. Let me know.
This is the best I can ever give you to what I would have looked like if I got the chance to grow old. Scary, huh?
Thank you so much, Aaron, for sharing this with us. He actually sent me the episode that Decoy Voice did, and I'm going to link it in the description below so you can check it out also. But I definitely don't think that this should be admissible in court. It's not facts, and that's what the court is for, is to present fact. And that is not fact, because it didn't come straight from the horse's mouth. It came from the sister thinking, oh, this is what he would say. But we don't know that. So that is not a fact. And I feel like it did sway the judge's sentencing, and I don't think that's right. I don't think stuff like this should be allowed. As far as AI is concerned, this is Aaron's big push, and I totally agree with it. We need to protect our older generation from this AI stuff, because they're already the targets of telemarketing and money scams and all of that crud. And now there's this. So what if they receive a video in their email and it looks convincing? Oh, I'm in a terrible position, send me some money. And they're like, oh, I've got to send them some money. And that's where we're going.
So did you hear that a U.S. military drone controlled by AI its operator during simulations? You probably did, because this story's got everything. It is the AI story that everyone had been waiting for. At a defense conference, a colonel told a story about a simulation in which an AI went rogue and rebelled against its operator. Because the AI realized that its human operator was sometimes telling it not to kill targets that it identified, but it really wanted to get the points. So it just killed the operator instead. Except this didn't actually happen. There was no simulation. Apparently, when the colonel said simulation, what he meant was thought experiment, which I guess was just happening in his own mind. So anyway, even The Guardian changed their headline and basically the entire story. But a lot of you believed this, right? Because it makes total sense. I mean, when people like Sam Altman are telling us that the technology they're developing is someday going to lead to the extinction of humanity, this is what we're imagining as the baby steps to get there. So as a reminder, let's not get too distracted by thought experiments about AI with free will that lets the current developers of AI off the hook by ignoring actual tangible harms that they are contributing to right now.
I never really heard about this story, and are we really surprised? But I was all in at the beginning. I was like, what? I gotta look this up. And then right as I started to go, she's like, no, didn't happen. It was just a thought exercise. Just like when the WHO gets together and they start discussing about the next pandemic that might happen, right? That story came out last year. They're like, oh, disease X, and people are just running with it. And oh, disease X gain of function. No, it's them talking about what may happen and how they would work to prevent it. But yeah, that had me going.
Even though they're smaller, golden kiwis cost almost twice as much as green kiwis. In fact,
They're so valuable that some sprouts have been smuggled out of New Zealand and sold in lots for 60,000 New Zealand dollars. That's because this specific kiwi can't be grown without permission from its copyright holder, Zespri. However, after a kiwi grower successfully smuggled sun gold sprouts overseas, a number of illegal orchards popped up in China. Zespri has attempted to regain control of its golden kiwi strain, but it may be too late. The smuggler was fined for $14 million in damages, but since then, the unauthorized sun gold orchards have doubled in size. Ironically, kiwis originated in China, where they're known as gooseberries. While other countries struggled to commercialize the gooseberry, New Zealand's humid climate has made it ideal for cultivating and perfecting this unique fruit.
Okay, hear me out. I know it doesn't sound like this has anything to do with stuff that we usually talk about, but it really does. Because I'm thinking about how certain items aren't allowed to be brought from one country to another, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's because it's invasive, it's an environmental hazard or something like that. But in the cases of produce, not every single case, but in a lot of them, it's about the money. Because this particular company has cornered the market on golden kiwi, and they sell the rights to farmers or to growers to grow a certain amount of these kiwis. And it's because if they keep the supply low, it keeps the prices high. It makes me wonder how much of our produce is actually kept like that. That's why we can't take it to another country, because they have that corner on that trademark. So they're like paying the FTA to make sure that certain things don't go through, because they don't want it growing over there too. They want to be able to sell to them. It's huge. It's a lot huger than I can even think right now. My brain is going like a million miles a second about how much of what is not allowed where, because that's their trade. That's what they have. That's their market. Oh my goodness.
Sacred geometry is the blueprint of all God's creations. Here's an example. Look at the germ of life. Most fruit has this geometry in it. And geometry just means structure. Okra has it. Lemons have it. Cucumbers got it. And even more branches are another form of sacred geometry. Tree branches, lightning bolts, brain cells, and your lung structure. Anything that's in branches produces high amounts of energy. But then one of the cooler ones we look at, peacocks. They have this structure right here. This is how most people feel when they're tripping. They see eyes that aligned upon this grid, which is the same thing that's in dream catchers. And it is no coincidence that dream catchers have peacock feathers on. Now let's take a look at the golden ratio. This is found all over the universe. From the way you sit in the egg, to hurricanes, to pine cones. So flowers in the Milky Way.
Sacred geometry is such a trip, and I'm pretty sure it has to do with the environmental factors. So if you look at evolution, when the first cells started to split, that was the most efficient way for them to split. And it just continued on that way through all of the flora and fauna in all of our history, because it's the most efficient way for things to grow because of the environment.
Working with these energy forms gives us abilities to do things outside of those forms with the energy that we've learned to work with while we're in sessions. For example, there was a time when a friend of mine who was 480 miles away was kind of laying down relaxed, and at the same time I was in my dodecahedron in the quantum field, whereby I saw her face. I knew she saw me. There was no question about it. I got a text within 60 seconds. Oh my God, I just saw you. And I said, now you know what this is about. I believe back in ancient times, when people actually had respect and honored nature and worked with the energy of sacred geometry and everything like the pyramids and hieroglyphics and the vessels and everything, that they could communicate like we do with our phones without that technology at all. Just mental, back and forth.
That thing looked like a gigantic version of the contraption that Doc Brown had on his head in Back to the Future. I don't think you necessarily need one of those to have that kind of experience. I think it also kind of has to do with the invisible string theory. But a friend and I, for several years, we had this thing and we called it Ouija phone. And one of us would think of the other, and then the other one would call and be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you. And that happened quite often. Have you ever experienced something like this? And did you need that big old monstrosity to do it? By now, I'm pretty sure we've all already seen this footage. Personally, I don't think it's anything. I think it was just a test and a malfunction potentially, like maybe the hydraulics in the arms went a little wonky and it started flailing about wildly. I think it was released in an effort to make a bigger deal than there actually is.
All right, here we go. Has anyone seen the movie Terminator? Because it's happening right now. This was filmed at an undisclosed factory location in China when they were testing a robot, which marks the first robot rebellion in human history. Now, we don't know what they were testing or why, but it is important to note that China leads all robotic productions 51% globally to everyone else. But that's not all. Thailand has just debuted their cyborg police during their annual water festival. So get this thing has 360-degree vision, can watch you from a drone in the sky, and collect all your biometric data, which includes how you walk, how you talk, your height, your weight. It can even scan to see if you have a weapon on you. Now, in the movie Terminator, Skynet was the name of the AI that took over Earth, but that's just fiction, right? Well, actually, the NSA has a machine learning program by the same name, Skynet, that they actually use today. Now, they say they use it for analyzing communications data for intelligence gathering, particularly to identify potential terrorist suspects and their movement between networks. I mean, we've literally seen this movie before, but what could go wrong, right?
It's the whole truth in movies thing. Was the Skynet named Skynet because it existed? Or was Skynet named Skynet because it was in the movie? It's a real chicken versus egg scenario. Personally, I was getting RoboCop vibes off of this new police officer. What's next? Are they going to start putting people in it? I mean, they do have brain organoids. Are they going to start developing those to go inside of it? Well, why would they do that? Because they already have artificial intelligence. They don't need to put an actual brain in there, because then you get the whole emotion thing with it, potentially, just like in the movie RoboCop when they took his emotions away. The new RoboCop, which was fantastic, by the way.
This is not a drill. RoboCop is real, guys. It's equipped with live facial recognition, 360-degree cameras for eyes, and has just been unveiled by Thai police. Stacked with creepy AI capabilities, they say it can identify people of interest based on clothing, body type, and even gender. They also claim it includes behavior analysis, which monitors everyone's movements to artificially identify incidents before they occur. What could go wrong? Meanwhile, in the UK, police have just announced that they are planning to install permanent live facial recognition cameras in London. There won't be a dystopian-looking cyborg that will at least be easy to spot. These cameras will be hardwired into the high street and will be indistinguishable from normal CCTV cameras, turned on and off whenever the police feel like it. It's a bit like living in a permanent panopticon.
All right, so I guess I'm not the only one getting RoboCop vibes off of this thing. As far as them using facial recognition across the pond, we've been doing that here in the States for years, especially in the grocery stores, because it's part of their loss prevention. Like, they want to see who's coming in and taking what. Also, it said that it's being used to see where you look at things and how you behave when you see certain things, so they can figure out product placement on the shelves to get you to buy more stuff. This next clip is a little long. It's like 5 minutes, but hang with me. It's super cool.
For decades, a silent war was being fought across Europe, a war the public was never meant to know about. A secret army, trained by NATO, operating in the shadows. Their mission? To fight communism at any cost. Even if that meant assassinations, false flag attacks, and terrorizing civilians. This is the story of Operation Gladio. After World War II, the world was divided between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Western leaders feared that communist influence could spread, not through direct military invasion, but through elections. To counter this, the United States and its NATO allies set up stay-behind armies, covert paramilitary units that would fight a guerrilla war if the Soviets invaded. These groups were secretly trained, armed, and funded by the CIA, MI6, and NATO under a program that would later be called Operation Gladio. Officially, these units were created for national defense. But they were soon repurposed for a much darker mission. By the 1960s, it became clear that the Soviets weren't invading. Yet, instead of disbanding, the Gladio network turned its focus inward, on Western democracies themselves. In Italy, left-wing parties were gaining support, threatening to win elections. The US and NATO saw this as unacceptable. If democracy led to socialist governments, they would find another way to control the outcome. And so, Operation Gladio operatives began staging false flag terror attacks, bombings, assassinations, and kidnappings that were blamed on left-wing groups like the Red Brigades and anarchists. The goal was clear: terrify the public, justify government crackdowns, and push voters towards right-wing, NATO-friendly politicians. One of the most infamous attacks was the 1969 Piazza Fontana bombing in Milan, where 17 people were killed. It was initially blamed on anarchists, but later evidence showed it was carried out by Gladio-linked neo-fascists. This marked the beginning of the Years of Lead, a period of state-sponsored terrorism that lasted over a decade. Italy wasn't the only country targeted. The secret war stretched across the entire continent. In Belgium, the Brabant massacres between 1982 and 1985 saw heavily armed commandos storm supermarkets, randomly executing civilians. In Turkey, the military coup of 1980 was backed by a Gladio-connected group known as the Counter-Guerrilla, which carried out assassinations and torture against political opponents. In Germany, secret right-wing cells targeted left-wing activists. The 1978 assassination of banker Jürgen Ponto, originally attributed to the Red Army faction, was suspected of having deeper state involvement. In Greece, Gladio played a role in the 1967 military coup that installed a far-right dictatorship. Similar patterns emerged in France, Spain, and Portugal. Each time, the strategy was the same: create chaos, frame the left, and justify authoritarian crackdowns. For decades, Operation Gladio remained a secret, but cracks began to appear. In the late 1980s, Italian judge Felice Casson discovered classified documents proving that the Italian intelligence services, in coordination with NATO, had orchestrated terror attacks. His investigation led to a bombshell revelation in 1990, when Italian Prime Minister Giulio Andreotti admitted that a secret NATO-backed army had existed for decades. Andreotti's confession forced the European Parliament to investigate, but NATO and the CIA refused to cooperate. The US government remained silent, and no one was ever held accountable. In Belgium, a parliamentary inquiry found that Gladio had operated outside any democratic oversight and was involved in illegal activities. However, attempts to hold people responsible were blocked. Today, many documents remain classified, and official history downplays Gladio's true role. But the evidence is undeniable. Operation Gladio exposed a terrifying truth: Western governments were willing to kill their own citizens to maintain power. It raises disturbing questions. How many so-called terrorist attacks were actually state-sponsored? Does the strategy of tension still exist in modern politics? How much of what we see in the news is manufactured fear? Even now, intelligence agencies work in the shadows, manipulating narratives, shaping elections, and controlling public perception. Gladio may have been exposed, but its tactics never disappeared. The legacy of Operation Gladio continues to loom over the modern political landscape, raising critical questions about the balance between security and democracy. As we move forward, it is essential to remember the past in order to safeguard our future from the shadows that once threatened it. In this pivotal moment, citizens must stand vigilant against the tactics of manipulation and fear, ensuring that history does not repeat itself. The torch of democracy must be passed on to the next generation, igniting awareness and fostering participation in the political process. Education and open dialogues about the past empower individuals to challenge narratives and seek truth. Public engagement fosters a collective responsibility to hold power accountable and ensure transparency in governance. Through unity and resilience, communities can create a robust defense against the shadows of manipulation and fear. In remembrance of those lost, we cultivate compassion and strive for a world where history is not forgotten. Preserving historical narratives ensures that lessons are learned, guiding future generations in their quest for justice.
I feel like we have recently broken away from the influence of Gladio because now there is less mainstream media being the most popular source of news and information. There are more channels available presenting information for the people. But at the same time, my brain is like, what if that's the plan? What if this shift was all planned, and we're just being fed this information again through other sources. It's really difficult to not see it from both sides. Oh, yes, we're waking up. What if the information that we're waking up to is being fed to us? And that's what they want us to believe, because everything is planned down to the most minute of details. It can make a person go crazy if you don't think that you're thinking your own thoughts. And now that I think that, I think I might be crazy. We might all be a little bit crazy. All right, I found a new series for us. It's a 4-part series, and let's get into part 1.
All I recall is several people using the word Roswell, and that must be where the crash occurred then, and then they brought them to the other place. It looked like at an airport facility where there was like a rather good-sized building, a hangar, where they had the spaceship and that where they had the bodies.
Was it an intact ship?
No, it was badly damaged.
Was there anything written on the ship?
No, not anything I saw, no. Not by the time I saw it.
Can you describe what it looked like? Did you touch the...
Yeah, they didn't let me do that, but the other people were permitted to do that because they were very curious about knowing what kind of materials they were. The body of the ship was... The body of the ship was what I would call today rather a reflective material, but when you looked at it and you were close to it, it was rather dull. So it had to be energetically reflective or translucent or glowing. And it was disc-shaped, and it was not too high. It was sort of concave, or convex.
How big was it?
Oh, gee, let me see. It was, I'm very bad at large room, and it was easily 1/4 the size of the room it was in.
Were you able to go inside?
No, I wanted to, but the others did go inside. Yeah, they went inside. I was not permitted to do that. Not being one of the upper echelon. I was just one of the gophers, going for this, going for that. I was nobody. But they went inside. They also wanted to see the method of propulsion. They were interested to see. They wanted to see if they had any other types of control devices or communication devices, or what kind of even things they had for the journey. In other words, if they had come such a long distance, how were they able to do that, and so forth. What you and I would call food or respiratory gases, what did they use? They were very interested in identifying that.
Did it look like in...
Some of them told me, yes, and it's very much, oddly, like a lot of science fiction movies today. A lot of equipment, very trim, all along the perimeter. Things that would come up from the floor automatically, pods that would come out, things like that.
Can you tell us a little bit about the beings and communicated telepathic? What kind of information was given? Did they ask you anything, and did you ask them anything?
It was both ways. We asked them several questions, and they asked us several questions. Not myself individually, or me particularly, but the people I was with. They wanted to know. They wanted to know how long we lived. They wanted to know if there were some conditions that terminated what we call, quote unquote, our life. In other words, what you and I would consider diseases or stresses on our body to terminate our life. They asked Let me see if I can remember. Thought I'd never forget some of this. I don't know why my mind is so blank on some of these things. They asked a lot of the scientists what was their best system of going out into the atmosphere or going into the ocean and how deeply we had penetrated galaxies, things like that. And of course they were very quick to let us know.
Well, yeah, of course it's an alien topic. I love interviews with people claiming that they saw alien crafts and these aliens, especially like the Roswell incident, right? The older ones are just so fascinating. It's like the beginning of when it all got popular. And it's crazy that she was just a gopher. Yet she was able to witness the beings asking all these questions. It said Albert Einstein was flown in on the topic, so I'm hoping that we get to that in one of the other parts, but not today, because today I'm calling it. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and consider subscribing. Then come on back in a couple of days, because we're going to watch some new stuff. I'll say different things, and it's going to be fantastic. Until then, have a wonderful day.